Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. My name is Dimer Sigba from BS Ed English 2A. In this video, I am going to answer the following questions in Week 5 module in Literature 1. So let's start. Number 1. Explain the various literary elements of children and adolescent literature. The following are some literary elements of child and adolescent literature. First, the characters. In children's literature, character is used to mean a person or personified animal or objects. Plot, the sequence of events showing characters in action. Sequence is chosen by the authors as the best way of telling the story. Theme, the idea that holds the story together or the author's message to the reader. It is the main idea or the central meaning of the story. Next is settings, the time and place where the story occurs. Style, author's choice and argument of words to create plot, characterizations, settings, and theme. Next is point of view, the side of the story the reader sees as revealed by the authors through the characters. Moreover, it is seen through the eyes and minds of characteristics as the plot unfolds. Tone, the author's attitude toward what he or she has written. For example, humor, mysterious, straightforward, exciting, boring, etc. Number 2. Explain the various verbal elements of children and adolescent literature. The following discusses some verbal elements of child and adolescent literature that includes first is the pause. A speaker or the teacher takes pauses between utterances in order to allow listeners to process what the speaker said. Next is loudness or softness. Depending on the teacher's style, emphasis can be achieved by either reading the piece loudly or softly. Next is rhythm. The way a speaker talks or read can be a powerful tool to engage listeners, especially children and adolescents. It also refers to the speed and flow of a speaker's utterances. Next is the repetition and rephrasing. Unlike in reading, a listener cannot go back to what a speaker has spoken if the speaker or reader did not understand that particular has utterance or text. And last is the tone. Tone of voice is essential in communicating the literary piece effectively. The tone of voice often shows the attitude of the speaker toward the topic or the listeners. Number 3. Explain the various visual elements of children and adolescent literature. The following discusses some visual elements of child and adolescent literature. This image in child and adolescent literary piece can be a mixture of objects, circles, dots, signs, charts, maps, photos, numbers, or words. Some also elements can be seen in the piece are include first line, create the illusion of movement and thus draws the reader into the story and makes the dream scenes real. Color can provide illustrations with depth and communicates emotion to a reader. For example, the use of warm colors can be used to express happiness or contentment, while the use of cool colors can express calm. Space and point of view are also frequently used to convey meaning with the illustrations of the text. Number 4. Discuss the various types of characters. In literature, characters are the individuals that play a role in the story. They can be human, animal, or even inanimate objects. Characters are essential to any story as they drive the plot forward, create conflict, and help to convey the author's message to the reader. There are various types of characters in literature, including protagonist. The protagonist is the central character of the story. They are usually the character who undergoes the most significant changes throughout the story and whose actions and decisions drive the plot forward. Next is antagonist. The antagonist is the character who opposes the protagonist and creates conflict within the story. They may be a villain or simply a character with opposing goals to the protagonist. Next one is the supporting characters. Supporting characters are secondary characters who help to move the plot forward and provide context for the story. They may be friends, family members, or other characters who are not as central to the plot as the protagonist and antagonist. Foil. A foil is a character who is used to highlight the characteristics of another character. They may have contrasting traits or beliefs to the protagonist, and their differences can help to emphasize the protagonist's strengths and weaknesses. Next is stock character. A stock character is a character who is stereotypical or predictable. They may have traits that are commonly associated with a rule, such as the absent-minded professor or the damsel in distress. Round character. A round character is a character who has a complex personality and is portrayed with a depth and detail. They may have conflicting traits, motivations, or beliefs and may change throughout the story. Next is flat character. A flat character is a character who is not fully developed and is portrayed with limited detail. They may only have one or two defining traits, and their purpose in the story is usually to provide context or support for the other characters. Next is the dynamic character. A dynamic character is a character who undergoes significant changes throughout the story. They may have a character arc where they start off with one set of beliefs or traits, but over time they change and evolve. Static character. A static character is a character who remains unchanged throughout the story. They may provide consistency or stability to the plot, but they do not undergo significant changes or development. Number 5. Discuss the characteristics of settings. The settings of a story is essential as it can help to create a mood or atmosphere, influence the actions of the characters, and provide context for the plot. Here are some of the key characteristics of settings. First is the time period. The time period of a story can be historical or contemporary, and it can it can have a significant impact on the plot and characters. The second one is the physical location. The physical location of a story can be a city, a rural area, or a specific building, or even a fictional world. The location can affect the mood and atmosphere of the story, and it can also influence the actions of the characters. Next is climate and weather. The climate and weather of a story can create a specific atmosphere and affect the actions of the characters. For example, a story set during a stormy night can create a sense of tension or danger, while a story set on a sunny day can create a more cheerful and optimistic mood. Social and cultural context. The social and cultural context of a story can provide important context for the plot and characters. This can include social norms, traditions, and values that are specific to a particular culture or time period. Symbolic elements. The settings can also include symbolic elements that represent larger themes or ideas. For example, a forest might represent the unknown or a place of transformation, while a city might represent civilization of modernity. Atmosphere and mood. The setting can create a particular atmosphere and mood that helps to convey the tone of the story. This can include a sense of mystery, danger, or even humor. Number 6. Discuss the three elements of plot. So the three elements of plot are crucial components of storytelling that help to create a cohesive and engaging narrative. These elements include: first is the chronological order. This refers to the order in which events occur in the story. The events are typically arranged in a linear fashion, with each event leading to the next. Next is conflict. Conflict is the central tension in a story that creates the plot. It can be internal, a character's struggle with their own emotions or desires, or external, a character's struggle with outside forces such as other characters, society, or nature. Next is the pattern of actions. This refers to the plot structure. which is the series of events that unfold over the course of the story. The pattern of action typically involves an introduction, rising actions, climax, falling actions, and the resolution. The introduction sets the stage for the story. The rising action builds tension and leads to the climax. The climax is the turning point of the story. The falling action revolves the conflict, and the resolution provides closure. Number 7, discuss the types of point of view. So first is the objective point of view. In objective point of view, the story is told without any access to the thoughts or feelings of the characters. This point of view uses only observable actions, dialogue, and descriptions to create a narrative. Objective point of view can create a sense of detachment, allowing readers to draw their own conclusions about the characters and events. Next is omniscient point of view. In omniscient point of view, the story is told by an all-knowing narrator who has access to the thoughts and feelings of all characters. This point of view allows the reader to see the world from multiple perspectives and understand the motivations and desires of all the characters. However, it can also create a sense of distance from the characters and events. Next is limited omniscient point of view. In limited omniscient point of view, the story is told by a narrator who has access to the thoughts and feelings of only one character. This point of view allows the reader to understand the motivation and desires of the focal character in a more intimate way, while also limiting the reader's knowledge of events and other characters to the focal character's perspective. Number 8, discuss the various devices of style. First is the connotation. Connotation refers to the emotional or cultural associations that words carry, beyond their literal meaning. The second one is the imagery. The imagery refers to the use of vivid and descriptive language to create mental images in the reader's mind. Writers often use sensory details such as sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell to create a more immersive experience for the reader. Figurative language. It refers to any use of language that goes beyond its literal meaning, including metaphors, similes, personification, and hyperbole. These devices are used to create a more imaginative or vivid descriptions of something, or to compare two unlike things in order to create a deeper understanding. Next one is the hyperbole. Hyperbole is a type of figurative language that uses exaggeration for effects. For example, saying "I've been waiting for an eternity" is a hyperbolic way of expressing impatience. Understatement. Understatement is the opposite of hyperbole. It refers to the deliberate downplaying of something in order to create an ironic effect. For example, saying "it's just a flesh wound" after being stabbed is an understated way of expressing pain. Next one is the allusion. Allusion refers to a reference to something outside of the context, such as a historical event or a work of literature or a cultural icon. Symbol. Symbol. A symbol is an object, action, or image that represent a larger idea or concepts. For example, a dove might be used as a symbol of peace. Puns and wordplay. Puns and wordplay are a type of verbal humor that relies on the multiple meanings of words. For example, saying, "Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana," is a pun on the different meanings of the word flies. Number 9. Discuss the various devices of sound. First is alliteration. It refers to the repetition of the same sound or letter at the beginning of multiple words in a phrase or sentence. For example, "Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers" is a famous example of alliteration. It can be used to create also a rhythmic or musical effect in writing, as well as to emphasize certain words or phrases. Next is the consonants. It refers to the repetition of consonant sounds within words in a phrase or sentence. For example, Mike likes his bike is an example of consonants as the key sound is repeated in several words. Next is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is the use of words that imitate the sound they describe. For example, buzz, hiss, and murmur are all examples of onomatopoeia. It can be used to create a more sensory or immersive experience for the reader, as well as to emphasize certain sounds or actions. Next is meter. Meter refers to the rhythm of a poem or another piece of writing created through the use of stress and unstressed syllables. Number 10. Why are these elements important to children and adolescents literature? So, these elements are important in children and adolescent literatures because they help engage younger readers, aid comprehension and emotional connections, and have educational value by teaching important life lessons, exploring different cultures and perspectives, and introducing new ideas and concepts. By using these different literary elements, authors can create engaging, accessible, and emotionally impactful stories for children and adolescents. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.